Hi, it's Vex, and today we're doing our Kroxa deck tech. That is right, this is one of my long-time decks. I made it during Theros Beyond Death. I've updated it, and now it's time to present it to my viewers. Here we go. So Kroxa is a nasty commander, right? Let's actually read Kroxa and let's talk about Rule 0 right afterwards. Kroxa is 2 mana value, black and red, 6/6, legendary creature, Elder Giant. Very good on rate, right? But let's read it. When Kroxa enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. So if you cast Kroxa from the command zone, you guys sacrifice it. You can either put it back to command zone or keep it in the graveyard. Now, whenever Kroxa enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discards a card. Then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card, this way loses 3 life. So if you discard a land, you lose 3 life, or if you can't discard a card, you lose 3 life. That's what Kroxa does, and it has escape, black, black, red, red, exile 5 other cards from your graveyard, and you may cast it from your graveyard for its escape cost. So now, this card says each opponent discards, right? So this is essentially a 3-for-1. It's a spell in the command zone, so hypothetically, if you have in your command zone right there, you cast it for black, red. Here, there's 2 triggers that would happen, 2 ETB triggers. Sacrifice it and discard. If you sacrifice, you can put it in your graveyard and then escape it later for black, black, red, red, right here, and it stays on the battlefield. Or you can put it back in command zone and pay 2 black, red to do it again. It's pretty nasty. It makes your opponents discard. Opponents hate discarding. That's why I have my mat. Why so salty? So before you start the game, definitely have that Rule 0 conversation saying, hey, look, I'm playing Kroxa. You know, discard is part of the game. People like making people discard. I think people are a little too salty about getting cards discarded because they don't like losing resources, but it is part of the game. You know, we should be allowed to play cards that you know we like to play, and I like to play discard sometimes. Remember, don't make this your only deck and make your playgroup play against it all the time. They're gonna hate you. Just, you know, sometimes. As long as your playgroup agrees, you have the Rule 0 conversation. You know, play Kroxa, have fun. My playgroup knows how to play against Kroxa. When you discard, do not discard a fatty. So I'm teaching you how to play against Kroxa. Don't discard a fatty because Kroxa is not only a discard deck, has a light reanimation package and reanimating your things and your opponent's things. So imagine you play Kroxa on turn 2. Right there, they discard a Consecrated Sphinx. You just reanimate Consecrated Sphinx on your yard. You're a winner. So they'll learn. Your playgroup will learn how to play against Kroxa. Anyways, let's go. Enough talking about Rule 0 and whatever, all that stuff. Let's talk about this deck itself. So this deck is all about sometimes self-discard, make your opponents discard benefits, reanimation, things like that. So, and Kroxa, funny enough, has only 1 token. So this is very interesting because usually I have this stack of tokens and say, don't forget your token, but don't forget your 1 token, your zombie token. Okay, so let's talk about these cards that make you your opponent's discard. Right here, Fell Spectre. So we have creatures that do it. I love creatures because they can also be sacrificed to things as well, and they also can just, you know, deal some chip damage. Flying. When ETBs, target opponent discards a card. So just one opponent, right? This is a fairly soft effect. There's other things that says each opponent, which is a very mean effect, but fairly soft. The cool part is the benefit that we want Fell Spectre for is whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. Bam. So you play Fell Spectre here. You play Kroxa. They can lose, you know, 2 life when they discard, or 3 life, or up to 5 life. Super cool with Fell Spectre right there. You have the Haunt of Hightower, one of the Ravnica Allegiance buy box promo. The only way to get it is the buy box promo, and it's only in foil, unfortunately. Flying Lightning, more flying creatures. And then whenever Haunt of Hightower attacks, defending player discards a card. So just, you know, a light touch, 1 discard. And then whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, put +1/+1 counter on the Haunt of Hightower. This thing does get big. I know it's only a 3/3 for 6, but it does get pretty big pretty quickly. So it's really good in the deck here. Then you have, this is the mean one right here, Siphon Mine. Each player discards a card. You draw a card for each card discarded this way. Wow, let's read that. Well, we don't have to read it again. Basically, if you play against 3 other players, they discard 3, you draw 3. This is essentially a 6-for-1 for 4 mana. So it's one of the best cards in the deck. Always try to get it. Always hope to get it. Yeah, I guess you can't really try, right? You draw one card at a time per turn. Words of Waste. I love this card. My opponents hate it, but you know, deal with it. 2 to black enchantment. Pay 1. The next time you would draw a card, each opponent discards a card from their hand instead. Wow. So you can just pay this in your upkeep, pay 1 mana. Next time you draw for your draw step, you just don't draw, and then they discard. Each opponent discards. So it's a 3 for 1. You just, you know, you essentially pay 1 mana, discard a card in your, you know, not draw your card, make your opponents discard. That's cool. Now this, see, the mean Spectre is getting meaner and meaner, because if you draw multiple cards in one turn, you can make them discard, you know, each opponent discards 2, discards 3. Very mean. Painful Quandary. Very, very mean, of course. 3 black enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. So it is a painful quandary, isn't it? You know, what do you do? Do you discard a card, or do you just lose 5 life? Very painful. I love this. This card is the chef's kiss, or whatever you want to call it, in the deck. This Elders Reborn makes each opponent sack a creature. Each opponent discards a card. Right there, Saga, and then Reanimate. So it does it all. It just takes time, but it is super, super sweet. And Magus of the Wheel. I include this because, you know, sometimes your opponents get hellbent so fast you need to refill their hands. You know, of course, the Wheel of Fortune would be much better in this deck, but it is a reserveless card. I don't have those in my deck. So Magus of the Wheel is a good substitute. It's not the best substitute, but it's a good substitute, because, you know, it's essentially a Wheel of Fortune on a creature. It's a slow Wheel of Fortune, and it makes them discard their hand. So if somebody has 7 cards and you say have Fel Spectre out, you take 14 damage. So why not? Reforge the Soul is the cost of Wheel of Fortune. Should be the cost of Wheel of Fortune. 3 red here, but you can miracle it. So refill their hands. Now, of course, the nastiest thing you can do is Sire of Insanity. Let's be honest, this card is super mean. I include it in my deck because, you know, it's on theme. Sire of Insanity, 4 black-red. At the beginning of each end step, each player discards their hand. That's it. Everybody's hellbent at every end step, all the time. You play Sire of Insanity, your end step comes, Sire of Insanity triggers, everybody discards their hand. And then you just play from top of your deck the whole time. Insane. Love it. And they have Rankle, Master of Pranks here. Flying Haste, so whenever it deals combat damage, so you can usually sneak it in. Each player discards a card. Lose 1 life, draw a card, sacks a creature. So it does a lot of things, especially the discard a card part here. We have another symmetric discard, as in Burning Inquiry. This is interesting, is that, so I forgot to say, these are symmetric effects right here. So these are opponents. These are symmetric effects here, where you would discard at the same time too, because it says each player, not each opponent. Burning Inquiry, you know, each player draws 3, discards 3, so it's really good for the fact that you force them to discard 3, because if they have 0 cards, you draw 3, discard the same cards. Like with Fel Spectre, you deal 2 damage, and other cards that we have in the deck, you deal damage for each discard. Chainer, it's kind of like a secondary commander. I really don't use Chainer as secondary commander. Chainer's just good in the deck. It gives you a discard outlet. You know, discard card, you may cast a creature card from your graveyard this turn. Of course, you might want to cast Rankle from your graveyard, or Fel Spectre, or Haunt of Hightower and stuff. We have other creatures there. Or you can cast Kroxa from your graveyard for its regular cost. Whenever a non-token creature enters a battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, it gains haste till next turn. So if you escape Kroxa with Chainer on the battlefield, it does trigger the second ability and give Kroxa haste. So you get to do the ETB and the attack trigger. So that's pretty mean there. So Chainer is really, really good here. So that's a self-discard effect here. So opponent discard, both discard, and then you have your self-discard. Faithless Looting right there. Fill that graveyard to help cast a Kroxa for the escape cost. Draw 2, discard 2. Cavalier of Flame. You know, ETB discards any number of cards, draw them any. So gives you a little looting effect on a creature. Super cool. Ox of Agonis here. And Ox of Agonis does a lot of things. It's 3 red, Nox. When ETBs, discard your hand, draw 3 cards. So if you're hellbent, you can just draw 3 cards. It's got escape. You know, since you're discarding cards, you fill in your yard. You can escape it. Then if it escapes, it enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. So comes back over and over again. Moves deck. And then of course you have the infamous, most hated commander ever, probably, Turgid, God of Fright. It's a god, of course. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a creature or discards a permanent card, you put that card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So you just get to steal all their stuff. So these are the benefits of making your opponents discard. Sangromancer. When a creature opponent control dies, you may gain 3 life. When an opponent discards a card, you may gain 3 life. So it helps you gain life. Here, that's gaining life is nice, but now you might make them lose life. Lilian's Caress. When our opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. Yep, that's where the pain comes. Same thing, lose 2 life. Megrim, same card essentially. Raider's Wake. Opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life, but has a raid. At the beginning of your end step, if you attack with a creature this turn, target opponent discards a card, which can trigger Raider the 2 life part. So there's where the pain comes in. You got 2 life, 2 life, 2 life. Fel Spectre does 2 life. You gain some life. Turgid's the most painful card here. Bloodchief's Ascension. Here, at the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life this turn, you may put a quest counter on Bloodchief's Ascension. 2 more life for any reasons. If they shock in a shock land, they lose 2 or life. And then you put a counter on it. So whenever a card is put into the opponent's graveyard from anywhere, Bloodchief's Ascension has 3 or more quest counters on it. You may have that player lose 2 life. If you do, gain 2 life. Card is put. When I read this, I'm gonna read it again. Whenever a card is put in opponent's graveyard from anywhere, from their hand, from the battlefield, mill, whatever, they lose 2. You gain 2. This card is actually really expensive because it's so good. Speaking of cards going to a graveyard, Sarkhan the Grim does that too, but deals 1 to each opponent. There. They have Archfiend of Ifnir, where you cycle or discard another card. Put -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponent's control. Each creature, right there. So it's mostly about discard. We have very little cycling in the deck, but it's mostly about discard. Then of course we have our little friend, Tiny Bones. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent discard a card this turn, you may draw a card and you lose 1 life. So remember, it's each end step, your end step and your opponent's end step. If anybody discard a card, bam, draw a card, lose life. And then you have this here. Each opponent with no cards in hand loses 10 life. I've never activated it, but it seems pretty fun that it can happen one day. And Gef's Grimory, I can never say that right. When our opponent discards a card from their hand, you may draw a card. So this is super good for you. It's like a 2-for-1 every time. You make them discard, and then you draw a card. Speaking of effects, you get when the opponent's discard. Bone Miser. Whenever you discard a creature card, whenever you discard a creature card, create a black zombie creature token. Whenever you discard a land card, add black, and whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. So essentially, it's good with Wheels, Burning Inquiry, Faithless Looting, Cavalier, Ox, Chainer. You get the drift. Bone Miser, and then Waste Not is kind of like the opposite, but it's when an opponent discards a card. So they're like, this is for you, this is for your opponent. And that's the zombie token that we talked about here. Okay, so I have a little spot here. Let's talk about graveyard hate. Remember, a lot of decks in EDH use the graveyard, so you might be helping them by discarding cards. So we gotta have some graveyard hate. In other words, a lot of graveyard hate, because you're helping other graveyard decks a lot. So we gotta prevent that by using Dauthi Voidwalker, a new card from Modern Horizons 2. Has Shadow, so essentially can only be blocked or block features with Shadow. Let's read this. This is important. It's Leyline of the Void text. If a card would be put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile it with a Void counter on it. Now, this is great because it doesn't affect your graveyard. It's your opponent's graveyard. Then you can sack it. Choose an exile card an opponent owns with a Void counter on it. You may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. Wow, even a land. You still can play land. So this is why I told you my playgroup doesn't discard high mana value creatures that early, because they know cards like Dauthi Voidwalker can yank it. Well, if Dauthi Voidwalker's on the battlefield, they know. So bam. They have Rakdos Charm. The important part is exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Right there. More graveyard hate. Scavenger Ground. Sometimes you need to nuke your own graveyard. You gotta make sacrifices. Bajuka Bog. Exile cards from target opponent's graveyard. Alright, so we have discard, graveyard hate. Now we're gonna go put these away real quick here. We're gonna go to the reanimation package, because we have fun stuff to reanimate. Here we have Reanimate itself, which I said, play this on turn 2, make somebody discard a card, Consecrated Sphinx, and you just next turn reanimate it, and then you start drawing a bunch of cards. It's super good. Right there, Reanimate from any yard. Animate Dead. It's enchantment, but you can use any yard as well. Dance of the Dead, kind of like Animate Dead from anybody's graveyard. Necromancy, right there, any graveyard, which we love. We have Sepulchral Primordial. It costs 7 mana value, insane avatar. ETBs, reanimate creature from each opponent's graveyard. So that's triple reanimation. They have Agadeem's Awakening, your own graveyard, but doubles as a land, so it's pretty good. Command the Dread Horde, right here. You get things from multiple creatures from multiple graveyards. It does damage to you, but pretty sweet. Then you have Palace Siege, which isn't a full reanimation spell, but it's an enchantment. You enter a battlefield, choose cons or dragons. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from graveyard to your hand. Dragons, at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. Mostly I use it for the right there, bring a creature back. Worst case, you can just bring and cast Kroxa over and over again. That's super good. Because Kroxa can deal 3 damage. This, gain 2 life, lose 2. So Kroxa can do more damage. So I usually choose the cons part. So those are reanimation cards there. We do have, the Elders Reborn was a reanimation card that we have in this stack previously. Of course, with reanimation, we have to have our combo. Of course, we gotta have combos, right? World Gorger Dragon with Animate Dead, that's a combo. I'll let you guys figure that one out. Then you have some mill synergies or discard synergies. You have Tectonic Reformation, that's right. Each land in your card has cycling for red. It cycles as well. So, helps fuel things for your graveyard, get things moving. Let's put this in a pile here. You have Ultra Dementia, so you can have sack a creature mill. So you have Ultra Dementia on the board, cast Kroxa, have the sack trigger on the stack, sacrifice Kroxa to Ultra Dementia. Mill yourself so you can escape Kroxa, or just mill an opponent. If they pondered or preordained or brainstorm something, just mill them out. Anger, right there, if it's in your graveyard and you have a mountain, everything gains haste. Squee, comes back to your hand over and over again. You have Underworld Breach, you can cast cards from your graveyard, escaping cards from your graveyard. So those are the graveyard synergies that we have, mill synergies. Yeah, then you always have your usual fare, your tutors, your demonic tutor. I love this. This is a cool tutor, Final Parting. It's expensive, but sometimes I like just playing with cool, fun cards. It doesn't have to be the most optimal cards, but you search your library for 2 cards. Put one in your hand, the other one in your graveyard, and shuffle your library. Then you can, maybe search for your World Gorger Dragon, put it in the graveyard. Then you can demonic tutor for Animate Dead. So this is a 1-card combo that can find both sides of your combo and put them in the right places. So that's pretty neat here. Then you have Entomb. This just moves things right to your graveyard. Again, you can find cool things like your Ox of Agonis right there, put in your graveyard, escape it. World Gorger Dragon, etc. Sepulchral Primordial. Where is that guy? Right there, so you can reanimate it and then reanimate your opponent's stuff. Cool stuff. Villas, it's just a cool utility card. Cool target to reanimate, which I love. It's huge. And then important part is whenever you lose life, draw many cards. And then pay 2 life. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end turn. So it kills things, makes you draw cards. It's just big. Cool reanimation target. Opposition Agent. Why not have this card? It's a hate card. Gotta keep people from tutoring sometimes. And then we have a removal here, Ingot Chewer. It goes right to the graveyard, so it can be reanimated and all this cool stuff right there because you can evoke it for 1 red. Playcrafter, sack a creature on ETB right there. So I love how and then you might trigger a death trigger somewhere here and there, or sacrifice it to Altar of Dementia if you have no creatures on the battlefield, or sack Squee. Stuff like that. You can do neat stuff with the cards. Lots of synergy in the deck. Then we have this new card, Feed the Swarm. I actually had this deck before Zendikar Rising, and I'm so happy to include Feed the Swarm because I have a way to kill enchantments other than Chaos Warp. So the removal is Feed the Swarm, kill creature enchantment, Chaos Warp. I love this card, Fire Covenant. I know they recently reprinted it in the Secret Lair as a mystical archive, but essentially, pay X life, deal X damage at instant speed, which is super good. I really love this removal spell because sometimes at end, right before your turn, you do Fire Covenant, maybe lose like 15 life, wipe the board, and then just go ham, reanimate their stuff. Toxic Deluge, necessary, always good. I know between Fire Covenant and Toxic Deluge is a lot of life, but usually you don't draw those 2 cards together, and if you do, you just fly close to the sun, I guess. Blasphemous Act, very good generic red removal. Always have in every red deck.
I always recommend it. It is an ultra staple of Commander. That, and I think Vanquish the Horde has become an ultra staple for me because it's such cheap removal. The reason cheap removal is so good is because you can wipe the board and then rebuild, instead wipe the board, pass, and then have everybody else rebuild, then you're last. So that's why I love cheap board wipes. You have your ramp package, Burnished Heart. It does sacrifice itself. Helps you get things in the yard. Solemn Simulacrum. Of course, you're playing Rakdos, so it's kind of, you don't get the green options. You got your Soul Ring. Of course, your Wayfarer's Bauble, your Arcane Signet, Mind Stone, Rakdos Signet, Talisman of Indulgence. So the standard fare, you don't get a lot of ramp, but of course, turn 2, we want to play Kroxa sometimes. Sometimes we don't. If we got one of these ramp spells on turn 2, we'd rather play that, play Kroxa, and then another 2-drop on turn 3. Or, play Kroxa on turn 2 and play this on turn 3. Depends. Then you have some cycling lands right here. So, of course, you want to fill your yard because you want to escape Kroxa sometimes. So you have your Canyon Slow, cycling land. Too bad there's no tri-land. This is a 2-color deck. You have your 4 other cycling lands, your deserts. I didn't want to put a full 6 cycling lands, a little too much ETB tap lands, but it's good enough. Then you have your standard fare command tower. You have your new Haunted Ridge from Midnight Hunt, which I love. I love these, and I can't wait to get the enemy ones from the new Crimson Vow. Then you have these. These are straight commander cards, probably. Luxury Suite. Of course, that's the commander card. Haunted Ridge, some more Rakdos dual lands, even Lava Call Reaches, because why not? You could activate it and pound in sometimes. Your Blood Crypt, all that other fun stuff here. Dual lands, and you got your fetch lands. And then you have cool utility lands here, which we'll go over. Sanctum of Eternity. I've never used this land until I got this deck. I should say I only use this land for this deck. Return target commander you own from battlefield to your hand. Activate this ability only during your turn. So you can activate an instant, but only during your turn. So you play Kroxa right here, and if you have an extra 2 mana and Sanctum untapped, you can tap it, return to your hand, then play Kroxa again. So it's really nasty with the way Kroxa works, because with a sack trigger on the stack, you don't have to sacrifice Kroxa. Gyri Sanitarium. Each player draws a card and discards a card. Of course, has the word discard in it. Right there. Now you can activate that as instant speed. They have Rixmati Dungeon Palace. Each player discards card, plays ability only anytime you can do a sorcery. So, not anytime, but it's discard only. There's no draw discard. So it's hard to deal with the land that makes you discard. Castle Lock the Wayne, good to draw cards with. Phyrexian Tower, sack creature, Orborg, and some lands. Of course, I made this deck since Theros Beyond Death. I have the cool Nyx lands. Anyways, that is the Kroxa deck. It is fun to play, sometimes fun to play against. I guess if you're a graveyard-based deck, you love to play against it because you love discarding. But all right, so we'll shuffle this deck up, and then we'll do some Goldfishing. But before we do Goldfishing, if you enjoy this deck tech, give the video a thumbs up, smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be alerted for new videos, and I have my deck list and TCG player affiliate link in the description below. So I'm going to shuffle this deck up, this giant deck that's falling apart here, this giant deck up, and then we'll be right back. All right, we are back, and I have my trusty Sakashima File Smasher deck to be our discard guinea pig here. We'll just put this in the corner right up there to discard. We'll just discard from the top of the deck, just make it easy. All right, Kroxa. Let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, we want to discard. We want to be mean. It's the name of the game. Let's see what we got here. All right, swamps. More black mana everywhere. This can cycle. But we do have a Rakdos Signet. So that gives you red mana. Can be cast. This gives you Kroxa mana. Can be cast on whatever turn. Okay, and then Altar. So I think our plan for this hand is, play this ETB tap, play these two, play the Signet, play Altar and Kroxa on the same turn, sack Kroxa, mill ourselves, see if we reanimate Necromancy, some good stuff. Then eventually do some wheeling and dealing. It's a good plan, right? All right, let's start. Turn 1, right there at the dice. Red mana. Oh, sweet. Okay. I think, how many mana sources we got? I think it's still okay to just put this into play tapped, because we're just going to take the opportunity to do so. Next turn. Turn 2. Again, usually when I do Goldfishing, it's a grindy deck and stuff. You got grind.
I mean, not grinded. There's like a combo that you can kill really quickly. But here, this is a grindy deck. So you have to keep grinding, like squee, get your card back. But be able to make opponents discard helps you grind harder because they don't have resources to do crazy stuff yet. All right, we'll play our Rakdos Signet here. Right there. So turn 3. We did draw a squee. I forgot to mention that. Or if I did mention it, I mentioned it again. Right here, Ingot Chewer. It's a very good card. So helps us empty our hands. Even if we reforge a soul with squee, we get it back. So that's sweet. So we'll play our swamp here. We'll try to play our Altar of Dementia first. Right there. So we have it to be Kroxa can sack right away. And we'll play our commander, Kroxa. And we have enough mana to escape Kroxa next turn if we wanted to do it again. But we'll just play our commander, Kroxa. Right here, we'll just do our Vile Smasher. Discard Dig Through Time, which is a good card to discard right there. Make our opponent's discard. Well, the sack triggers on the stack. We make discard first, then sack. But sack trigger on the stack. We'll sack Kroxa to Altar of Dementia. Let's move this out of the way here. We'll actually use sack Kroxa into the graveyard right there. And we'll just sack for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So see what we got here. Some lands, Fell Spectre, Burnished Heart, so nothing to reanimate particularly. Let's keep Kroxa in the yard. Okay, next turn, turn 4. Boom. Here, this is a good turn. See what we could do. See what card we got. Mountain. Okay. Got some lands. Let's play our mountain. We got 5 mana. What can we do? We can still escape Kroxa. We didn't get any cool creatures to Necromancy. We play Reforge the Soul. Right here, we could Ingot Chewer. So if we have the extra red, we could tap this, cast Ingot Chewer to chew up somebody's Artifact Soul Ring, put this in a yard on top of Kroxa. And then what we'll do is we will tap, filter through here. We will actually cast Kroxa. Here, we'll escape. Keep the creatures in there because it's important. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep Ingot Chewer can go away. 5. Right, escape 5 other cards. Cast Kroxa right there. Kroxa gets to stay this time. Opponent, our poor Shakashima, discards Slendy Vision. So not bad yet. And if somebody tries to destroy Kroxa, you can alter Dementia. Kroxa again. Also, the Alter Dementia helps feed Kroxa and helps allow you to escape Kroxa constantly. So now we have a nice Kroxa right there. We have these cards in our hand. We say go. Turn 5 here. We made him discard twice, so sweet. Sanctum of Eternity. Ooh, that's super good right there. You can bounce Kroxa right back to your hand. Recast. But remember, if you recast Kroxa, it goes back to the graveyard because it wasn't escaped. So you can always, attack a Kroxa, attack trigger, discard, Volcanic Vision. So that's pretty neat. There, no big creatures yet. I know, I'm very surprised. I did shuffle the deck. What can we do here? We could Reforge the Soul, but we don't have any discard payoff. But we might be able to get one soon. We could cast Squee and mill ourselves or mill them. Actually, that's a good idea. Squee would only mill for 1 though. It's kind of crappy. So you know what? Let's go for gold. Sack this, mill our opponent. Our opponent out for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thieving Skydiver. Vizier Many Faces. That's a nice clone right there. I can steal. Right there. We could. Now what do we do? Nah, we want to save that for later. Let's just say we play our land here. We have Squee. We have Reforged Soul. Can we? We can't do Kroxa again, so that kind of sucks. I think the best course of action is let's just do that. We probably get another reanimation spell here or there, right? I think the next best course of action is Reforge the Soul. We'll probably get a reanimation spell. We get Squee back. It's pretty good right there. So we will tap everything here. We will Reforge the Soul. We'll discard our hand.
here. We'll draw 7 new cards. Blood Chief's Ascension, sweet. We got a mana to cast it too. Let's see, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we have a land drop for next turn. That's sweet. We'll play our Blood Chief's Ascension. Right there. So at the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life, you may put a quest counter. So we did, smack with Kroxa, so we'll just put a quest counter in this. Then it triggers when you have 3 or more quest counters. Bam. Okay, pass, turn 6. So we're going to play extra turns. Usually we play only 6 turns, but Kroxa is very grindy, so we got to play a lot more turns. We are making opponents discard a lot of cards, so actually we just refilled their hands with Reforged Soul, but now we can make them discard even more cards. That's sweet. Draw a card here, Villas. Okay, play land. We do have Reanimate, which is super sweet. We could play Eldest Reborn right here. Let's hypothetically play Eldest Reborn. Here, saving a black and a red, just in case. Each opponent sacks a creature or a planeswalker. We'll just find the first creature here. Oh, Consecrated Sphinx. We'll take that creature. And this is what I said about Consecrated Sphinx. Right? If an opponent plays it, you play Eldest Reborn, kill it, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to hit Reanimate, get that Consecrated Sphinx right onto your battlefield. Super, super sweet. Bam. So, you do take 6 damage. I think it's only 6 damage for it, but hey, you get Consecrated Sphinx. And then you say, you can't play anything else here. Worlds of Waste. So next turn you can set up these 2 cards, make them discard, and then take damage, or you gain life, and then you would probably gain 9 life. If they discard 3 cards, you pay 1 for this. It's sweet. And then you're drawing tons of cards. So imagine Consecrated Sphinx, and I actually never thought of this cool combo. Consecrated Sphinx and Words of Waste. Wow. Each time they draw a card, you can just make them discard the card they draw. So let's say we go. We drew a bunch from Consecrated Sphinx. 6 cards, plus our draw phase. So this is the lock, isn't it? I didn't think about this until I had my other deck here, but I think this is the lock. Eldest Reborn will trigger Chapter 2. Each person discards a card. Bam. Temporal Sundering. Alright, so what we do is we could play Words of Waste. Alright, they're definitely playing that one. That one's insane, tell you the truth. And you know what? I would use a Signet for that. I wouldn't do anything else. I would just be like, do I have a land drop to play? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I paid all my lands, so I would just discard some cards. It doesn't even matter. Let's see, I keep the Opposition Agent. I'll discard the Ox, of course. This card doesn't do anything. And then I would discard the Fire Covenant and Sangromancer. We don't need that. Okay, so this is what's going to happen right here. Is that on my opponent's upkeep, what I'm going to do is pay 1. Next time I would draw a card. This turn, each opponent discards a card from their hand. Opponent draws a card, right? Draw a Spark Double. Then I would draw 2 cards, so I'd activate it twice. Actually, I would draw 2 from a Consecrated Sphinx, but I would skip that draw phase and then make the opponent discard the Spark Double that they just drew and in another card from their hand. And then every time they go around, I'll just keep activating Words of Waste and then make them discard cards until they're hellbent. And this is probably a lock, right? Every time they draw a card, if it's not an instant, they just discard it right away. And then I just lock them out of the game. And if no one has anything to discard, I'll just take a regular draw. So be careful. Oh man, if we could play Consecrated Sphinx in our deck with Words of Waste, that'd be insane. Anyways, this is essentially how the deck operates. You get to do cool stuff here. You got Animate Dead. Look through more opponents' graveyards. I only have 1 graveyard, but if I had more opponents, more pretend opponents, I would have more graveyards to mess around with. But that's essentially how it works. It's a super cool deck. I really love it. Again, have that Rule 0 conversation with your play group to make sure they're okay with playing against Kroxa. And, let them play their high-powered stuff if they want to. It's pretty fun. Anyways, return that Consecrated Sphinx that won us the game probably. Anyways, If you enjoyed this video, give this video a thumbs up, smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be alerted for more videos. I have a decklist and TCG player affiliate link in the description below. And as always, have a wonderful day.